the best way to be honest about something is to perform it on video live. So here's the gold dragon under a Saturn Neptunian slide, mostly through taking the extract of the herb of Saturn and overeating. And there was some letting go of the semen retention. And overeating creates a reduction of plasma intake, otherwise it can't proceed. So the plasma retention will force the overeating to slow down. So we went through a Saturn sun, which is still resonating, until the sun passes the equator. And then the sun now is heading towards Neptune in Revatī. So there's some very strong power animal extract. Actually, comes from an animal that has been found in order to create a portal for a peak preview in another world. So around the 23rd of Pisces, when the Sun and Neptune are getting parallel, the plan is to go into a power spot, and to use the power animal extract to cross into another world. Because it's all perfect. Sun, Neptune, Revatī. In Pisces, Revatī. The end of Pisces, which is Mercurian. By then, Mercury will be in Aries. Mercury is already parallel Neptune, hence this Neptunian video. So we also went through a Sun Rahu contraparallel after the Sun parallel with Saturn. And that was very interesting to watch it here with the people. Very interesting. Someone here has a Sun parallel Rahu. And Rahu is right now with Chiron. Sorry, a Sun parallel with Chiron. That person has a Sun parallel with Chiron, and there is this on that Sun contraparallel Rahu, which is with Chiron. That person was not doing as well. It was quite marked difference. So, huge astrological insights in terms of deciphering, reverse engineering the Great Pyramid. So we already know that the numbers of days never changed, and that the technology to measure accurately the latitude of the sun was lost was destroyed by the Phoenix cataclysm, because the number of days in the years in the pyramid, which would have been built before the calendar change. But the calendar didn't change, it was covered up by another one. So they began by replacing the arguably the best, in terms of energy and in terms of logic, even through the suffering that's going on mainly from the Great Pyramid, but which is really just encoding the movements, the patterns, the ratios, and the cycle ratios between mostly the sun and everything else, because the sun is the most steady, which is why it's associated with gold. It's the measure. It even has sort of the color of gold. So that and the 365242 and the 6, which is found everywhere in cycles, even in 138 is 6, because then 138 is just screaming 23, which is 23 times 6, and then there's the great year, which is 6 sexagenary cycle, which is 360. Voila. So this great apocalypse that is talked about in Revelation is actually the Anamudi 6000, since the beginning of a certain sexagenary cycle from the so-called year of creation, which was just a cataclysm. So the 6,000th year is 60, or 6 to the power of 10 to the power of 3. So not to the power, 6 times 10 to the power of 3. So it's just a very powerful and more complex 6 cycle. It's a very powerful intersection. So year-based astrology, the reason why they say that shards are years is because in astrology there's a correspondence. There's meaning to be found by translating a shar as a year. It's not that a shar is technically a year when we're talking about calendar. When we're talking about a calendar, we're saying the shar is a degree. That's what a shar is. This is why the degree corresponds to a year, because the 360 correspond to the great year of 360 years, which is 6 sexagenary cycles. And all this is also, we get a clue from Saturn, which is nearly 30 years, and Jupiter, which is 12. And then if they're combined, they're the 2 slowest visible stars, planets, which is wandering star. So their common multiplier, or I don't know what they call it, the common number to which they can multiply is 60, 30, and 12. Even the year and a half of Rahu corresponds with that. So the Phoenix works on the degree scale. So any event like a birth. So your birth chart adding 138 to the sun over and over. That's why it's good to know the time of birth, because then one knows the minute of birth, which is when one peaks every time there is a major, aside from a few exceptions, of course, like 7 and 13 and 11 and 19. These are, and 23. Because these are prime numbers, so they have their own meaning and power, but the 7th being the major one, and the 5th. So the 7th and the 11th. So this is why 11 and 13 is also really noteworthy, because the Mayan based almost everything on 13. So they studied the cycle of 13, which I suspect might correspond with the lunar cycle in terms of its how far it goes. Or there's a new zodiac that's coming, which will use the luminary's own zodiac in terms of latitude. So studying each luminary's own cycle, creating a zodiac for each, and then correcting with latitude, like showing some charts with the same latitudes resonating and counter resonating with the other latitude, the north and the south. This is the reason why Aries, the point of Aries, is so clear and powerful. That's when the sun reacquires its exaltation in the north, where it's most powerful, where in clock terms it spends the most time. So the summer is clockwise longer than the winter. That's where it crosses over into the north and from the south. So which gives it a more clear definition than Libra, because that's the sun losing its exaltation. So it's something losing power, which makes it less demarcated because it's more feminine and negative. So the point of Aries measures everything in terms of the cycle, which is why it's 0 degrees, or the first point. The first of Aries, like Ayrton Senna was the first of Aries. He was almost exactly the same minute as me, 37 minutes, 0 degree. So these are really interesting. I met someone who's possibly 0 degrees 1 minute Sagittarius. So that's why he became quite of interest to me, and he showed enough spiritual sense to not push me away too much. So yeah, I learned a lot from him, and it's pretty clear to me that there is a very sharp edge at the water fire boundary, which is why the division by 3 is so important, which is why it's 12, 28. Well, 28 is actually not divisible by 3. It's just an up from 27. As 13 is, right? So you have there's a parallel, 12, 13, 27, 28, 28 being a perfect number. It's also in gematria, it's bruja and brujo together, added up. Brujo, bruja. Which is, so, wait. Is it? Yeah, 17 and 11. 28. And in the tarot, it's the 6, the 6 of Wands, which is, here I got a big tarot set. Victoria. Victory. So there's it's beautiful. It's perfect. The 6, Jupiter, Leo. The middle of Leo. So from 1:30 to 1:40. That's where 138 is. That's funny. So that's the update. So the Golden Phoenix kind of went dormant by virtue of the fact that the people that are supposed to be in charge went on a slide. Which is part of the reason of it, why it exists. It's like this guy who went to see the mermaids by tying himself up to a mast. He created a condition that made it possible for him, that forced him to go through the motion that he had to go through in order to reach the achievement that he was given a task for. So the Golden Phoenix helps me to hold myself accountable. So if you feel called, get in touch. There's multiple channels: WhatsApp, Telegram, and Matrix. There's phoenix.creome.me, and there's golddragon.creome.me, and there's seahawk.creome.me if you want to reach Anna Seahawk. So that was all for this 17th of Pisces, 5917 Anno Mundi, with Mercury parallel Sun peaking today, I think, and the moon getting close to a new moon. So the moon is in Aquarius, coming towards the sun. So there's going to be a new lunar cycle starting just even as the moon becomes Aryan and goes north. So it'll be really interesting. And then we're getting prepped for this Neptune meeting, which is going to purify us for the sun Rahu coming up in Aries. Till then, thank you, infinite magical beings. Bye.